Deputies, welcome back. Thank you, deputies, members of the community, friends. We are now on live stream, resuming our meeting. So thank you very much. And thank you, Birmingham, once again for your lovely hospitality. Thank you. So we now come on to the division statements. You may have noticed that Sheila and Edwin unfortunately are not here, so when it comes to their statements I will do my best to answer any questions for you, but in the meantime can I please ask Amanda to present your division report, and anyone who wants to answer or ask questions, can you please make your way over there and sit near the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. Can everyone hear? Sounds all right? Good. So thank you very much. We haven't had a divisional meeting since we last met together in February, but that does not mean we've not been very busy looking at all aspects of the Defence Division plan. I just want to draw your attention to some of the work that we've been doing, in particular around getting a response ready in terms of our position on online hate crimes. I know that Jess was referring to the despicable way that some of her fellow MPs had been dealt with online, but this is something that we find and we know is happening for in terms of anti-Semitism on an increasingly regular basis. And so Tal Fair, one of the deputies on the Defence Division, is leading a task force to look at the Board of Deputies policy on online hate crime, and we're working on that together. I was delighted earlier, just 6 days ago, to have a meeting with the new Universities Minister, along with UJS, the CST, the chaplaincy, and the Jewish Leadership Council. Despite the quips that this was the third meeting that we'd had with universities ministers over the last 9 months, what it does show was that the way that we come together as a community, and certainly in that aspect of our work, we are all very aligned in what we want to achieve, but also quite clear about what we all have to offer that's distinct, and how we can work together to achieve that. So I'm very happy to take questions from anyone on my report, our report, I should say.
Hi, Anthony Bolkover at UJS. I read in the report that I'm very glad the Board of Deputies have been making statements concerning the so-called anti-racism charity Show Racism the Red Card. It seems that some racists only get a yellow card. Yes, I was wondering, I also saw there was a letter including by, which makes it a bit more unfortunate as I am a Manchester United fan, including signatories from Sir Alex Ferguson and Eric Cantona defending the despicable decision by Show Racism the Red Card of keeping Ken Loach and Michael Rosen as judges. So I was wondering what next stages might be from the Board of Deputies about that. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Anthony. So we've been in touch with the Manchester Rep Council and our deputies in Manchester, but the Rep Council have good relationships with Alex Ferguson in particular, so we're reaching out in that way. Not in a public way, because that's not going to help. That's not going to help us at this point. So we are reaching out through, it's much better if there's a personal connection. And there's, as you may know, there's an AP, the Show Races and the Red Card have an all-party parliamentary group. And we are, we've reached out to MPs that are on that all-party parliamentary group to share with them the letter that I sent in February and to ask them to stand up against this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Stuart, would you like to present your report and give me the soap?
Even the President has to pay me a small fee. It goes into the board's coffers. I would like to thank, first of all, our hosts for the quality of the lunch we've just had, which was very tasty indeed. And thank you for that, as well as for their general hospitality this weekend. I'd also like to thank them for their generosity in giving out so much of their precious hand gel so freely. On a more serious note, where are we with the work of the Finance and Organisation Division? We tend to fixate on the financial side of the equation, and you'll see from the Treasurer's report that was circulated to you that not a great deal has changed since last month. We continue to run a pretty tight ship. We are ahead of budget at the moment, but we still have to face the facts. There is a medium to long-term challenge in terms of the nature of our funding base. We are in the process of recruiting someone to take charge from in-house of our fundraising efforts. But at the moment, we have three main fundraising streams. One is the community contribution, one is the President's Dinner, another is the rep fees. And with the community contribution, it was not a little unsettling to hear from one of your number, whom I thank, telling me that, and Julian, that their particular synagogue had sent out the latest shul bills with the community contribution on it, but a note saying this is voluntary and you don't really need to pay it. Many of you have been contacted by the board staff over this past year asking you to provide information about how, if at all, your shul or organization asks for the community contribution. It is so important that those of you who haven't fed back what happens at your particular shul or organization should get back to us. It's really important because we need to address those particular organizations that are not contributing as much as they might. We're very dependent on you, the deputies, taking hold of this within your organizations and liaising back with the staff. On a more benign note, the virus allowing, we have set a date for the President's Dinner, November the 22nd, and Sheila, who sadly can't be with us, is going to take charge of the organisation of that. And we're really after people who can be table hosts or help with a continuation of the work that Ruth Friedman and others undertook last time to get sponsors and advertisers. So please make yourselves known to us. In the round, our work has simply continued over the last month as it has in previous months, and you're welcome to come to me offline after this meeting with any specific questions. If anyone has any questions in the interim, though, please feel free, or observations to make. I know, for example, that Sid Braham had something that he was talking about raising. If you'd care to, yes, please come up. Just while Sid comes up, I'll just reiterate that if it's something that's very detailed or particularly detailed, it's best to address that offline because I don't necessarily have all the numbers and detail with me.
Sid Braham. Yes, can you hear me? Yeah. Sid Braham, Barnet Synagogue. I actually had two sort of questions or points to raise. I'll ask the second one first, and then we'll go from there. On the subject of the communal contribution, something that my shul has been doing this last week, we're part of the United Synagogue. United Synagogue, it's billing time now, and I believe the US want to send bills out as quickly, they're due Pesach, but get them out before the virus clamps down on too many activities, including shul billing. I managed to get some leaflets from the board on the communal contribution, which we've managed to stuff into the envelopes with the bills, and they are going out this weekend. We'll monitor the performance. Our performance isn't bad at Barnet, but it could be better, like probably every other shul, or virtually every other shul in the country. So we'll monitor performance, we'll see how successful it is. But the board, bless them, sent us far too many leaflets. God, please God, we should have that number of members. So I have a stock of spare leaflets. If anybody would like some, see me this afternoon, and we'll try and get them. If you certainly live in London, we can get them to, we'll do a deal. But I don't really want to send them back to the board. You can have them. Can I take the other point now, or Marie, just be a little bit, please, lenient with the time. On the community briefing the 20th of February, and the community division report refers to a high-level delegation from the board that met an equally high-level delegation from the Federation of Synagogues. I welcome this engagement. The Federation has about 17 constituent members and something like 11 affiliated synagogues and organisations according to their website, but only about 7 are represented by deputies, and the communal contribution is below par. Did the delegates from the board check with the finance team on these sub-optimal figures, and if they did, what was the outcome? If they didn't, then I think we've missed an opportunity. I ask that when such meetings in future take place with synagogue organisations, that we can put representation of the board deputies and communal contribution on the agenda, because the former adds to our democratic representation, the latter is our lifeblood, and I commend that suggestion.
Perfectly timed. We have 10 seconds left, but Marie is going to answer that.
Thank you. To report, we had a very good meeting with the Federation. We did look at the communal contribution, but that's part of the relationship building. And I think it's very important that we make sure that we can help represent all parts of the community. So I viewed the meeting as something very positive, but of course the communal contribution would come hand in hand with that. But I think it's something that you should be proud that we've managed to have the meeting, and that we all wish to have a good relationship. So let's keep it under review, but we for sure are looking, as we are across the country, at the communal contribution, because we all know we need the support to be able to carry on our good work. But it really was a very positive meeting, so thank you for the question. It was very appreciated. Thank you.
Spencer Nathan, Edgware United Synagogue. It's just over a year now until we elect new deputies for the next triennium. Could I suggest that prior to registration of new deputies, each FR or the equivalent is asked to send out a pro forma showing exactly how people are billed for the Board of Deputies. I think it varies, and I think every shul should actually bill people for the exact amount that the Board of Deputies requires. I think it's an opportunity, since we will be registering new deputies and there will be an obligation on the shul. The second point, I think, is that over the 3 years of this triennium, size bands will have changed for individual shuls. Some will have expanded, some will have contracted, And I think it's important that we ask people, even if their membership numbers are confidential, which band they fit into. From that size band, we could assess whether they're playing their part in contributing to the board.
Spencer, that is all well received. Thank you. And with your first point, I'll be in touch with Lauren Cowles, the Community Engagement Officer, to look into that. The second one's just a pretty obviously good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Cohen, Loughton. Following the cancellation of the CST dinner, I thought there was an effective video that Gerald Ronson sent out asking people to make contributions even if they couldn't go to the dinner. So I feel that perhaps now is time for Gillian or Marie or even Stuart to publish a short video that we can send to our communities explaining why it's so important that the community contribution should be paid. My other point is the presidential dinner. I know customarily the honorary officers don't canvass opinion from deputies as to who a suitable speaker it should be, but I think the speaker is really quite crucial to the dinner, and certainly Tony Blair was the benchmark of the kind of the high caliber speaker. I think if you look back on the last general election, the crucial role that was played on LBC by various broadcasters, Majid Nawaz is one who I have in particular in mind. I think he did a tremendous amount to swing people who were thinking of voting Labour, especially Muslim voters who were thinking of voting Labour, to shine a spotlight on anti-Semitism. And I found him to be a very articulate man, and I think he's got a very good story. It's a kind of bow to Shuva in a way of how at one time he leaned towards supporting terrorist groups, but now he's had a sort of a Damascene moment. And I think that we should show a debt of gratitude to him by perhaps considering him to be one of our speakers at the next dinner. Thank you.
Thank you. And if anyone else has suggestions, then we'll be pleased to hear them, either now or perhaps just offline, but thanks for that, Richard. Thank you.
Ruth Friedman, Pinner United Synagogue. Stuart carefully skated past the date of the dinner, which is the 22nd of November.
Ruth, I did mention it.
Skated is my word.
Oh, okay.
You should put it in your diaries. Are we sending out save the date cards? That's what most organisations do. At least the people who had a table last time could send a card to their guests.
Yeah. We will be doing just that, and thank you for reminding those who've joined us by live stream that November 22nd, all things being equal, will be when we have the next President's Dinner, which will feature yummy food, great fellow guests, and also, no doubt, a very, very good speaker. So that's November 22nd. On which note, as always, I'm happy to be contacted offline and away from these meetings, and yeah, I'll pass the baton back towards our President.
Thank you. Edwin, unfortunately, isn't here today, so I have the report from the Community Education and Interfaith Division. I've had one question by email, so I will read out the question. It's from Susan Pascoe. She's concerned about Pesach supplies. Retailers may not have enough for Pesach due to the current situation, and she would like to know whether or not a task force could be set up and ask retailers, for example, to see if rationing is required. Now, I know everybody in Birmingham is very well prepared because they've already ordered their Pesach supplies, but I do fully anticipate that a lot of people will have difficulty, probably especially in London. So I did mention at the beginning of the meeting that Gillian is chairing another meeting tomorrow by video conference of, I think it's about 60 CEOs of other... Right, sorry, I'm being corrected. Gillian and Simon Johnson tomorrow are chairing... talking tomorrow, following the chairing of the meeting on Friday. And this is something that Gillian is going to raise tomorrow in the conversation, to see if we do need to make contact with retailers, because I'm sure the community will accept that wherever possible we all should be feeling that we can have enough food for Passover. So it's a very sensible question from Susan we will take forward. Does anyone else have anything they want to mention? Please come to the microphone. I will do my best to answer for Edwin.
Jeremy Michaelson, Manchester Great New and Central Synagogue. It's really not a question, Marie. It's just so that the people know that one of the things that the education section has been pushing really for the last 4 years is to develop a national system of volunteers going into non-Jewish schools, teaching about Judaism. And Manchester is leading the way on this. We have sent out 800 emails to 800 schools, and we've had a very, very good reception. And myself, Anne Angel, and Eric from Manchester, and Eric Cohen from Liverpool, the three of us are part of their mentoring team. We have, in fact, been training. We've trained a group of volunteers, and they're starting to go into schools. So, and we're very happy with the results. I received a letter, great package of stuff on Thursday, and in fact it was really for one of our volunteers, saying from children at the school they'd just been to, saying how great it all was. So that's going very, very well. And what we will be needing, though, in the next few weeks, assuming things don't come to a complete grinding halt with the coronavirus, is that the Jewish Living exhibition is going to Blackburn just after Pesach. We in Manchester, and we were not consulted about this, so we're trying to do our best to help. And I've emailed all sorts of groups of people who have volunteered, teachers, and who, in various circumstances, including teaching in shuls and things like this, asking for volunteers, and they've been sending their responses into Sarah directly. But we may well need some help, because it's going to be over 4 weeks. As I said, it might all come to a grinding halt because of the coronavirus, but that's just something for people to bear in mind. Thank you.
Spencer Nathan again, Edgware United Synagogue. This concerns coronavirus. Many synagogues in most years have a communal seder. It's just possible that there might be restrictions on the number of people who are allowed to go into communal buildings. Could I appeal to deputies through the board to contact their synagogues and make sure that the old and the lonely, if they are unable to go to a communal seder, are provided for within their community? It would be very nice if a letter could go up from the board alerting people to that.
Thank you. We'll obviously contact the denominations on that, but that's a very worthy thought. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well done, Ilana.
Ilana Davis, Birmingham Progressive Synagogue. I've been told by the leader of our Cheder that some of these schools in Birmingham and Coventry are using a Holocaust education resource from a company called Cornerstones. Her concern was that the curriculum seems to recommend texts like Boy in the Striped Pyjamas to Year 6 pupils and talk about concentration camps, whereas the Holocaust Education Trust say that education for Year 6 people should focus on the Kindertransport. Is there anything, is the board aware of this organisation called Cornerstones? And is there anything that we can do to guide schools towards the guidance by the Holocaust Education Trust rather than this company?
Thank you very much for that question. I'm going to take that offline and we will investigate that. I think you're raising a very, very serious issue, because we do want to make sure that there is consistency in the way that Holocaust education is taught, and for my purposes, HET sets the gold standard. So you'll have to give us a little bit of time to investigate that, but we will. Very important. Thank you. Thank you for that. Anything else? I just wanted to mention last Shabbat I had I've had a few fantastic Shabbats recently, but last week I was in Northampton. I was very kindly hosted by Bruce, and it was an amazing community. But there was something there that I picked up that I wanted to share so that we can think about it. Northampton's a very small community, and there was a very good man who comes to the community from Mill Hill, and we were talking about the concept of twinning. For example, there are many strong communities, and there are those communities that really could do with some extra people on Simchas or Rosh Hashanah or other times. And I'm going to ask Edwin perhaps if he can speak to the division to see what we can do, because it's a very good way for the larger and stronger communities to actually support some of the more remote communities around the country. And I'd also say I had a very, very good visit. Where's Valerie? In Cambridge as well. So I'm very happy if anybody else wants me to, once the coronavirus is obviously over, for me to carry on going around the country. But really that's such a special, wonderful part of the job to see all of you in your communities. I think we've got another question coming. Thank you. And yes, Finchley Reform, I had a very good visit there as well, not so long ago.
Sid Graham, still at Barnet Synagogue. I don't often speak at one board meeting. To speak twice is unheard of. Just picking up on the point that the President has just made, this is something that, this twinning, as you call it, is something I suggested in a couple of areas many years ago, and has never got off the ground. So I very much welcome this suggestion. I was originally told that the board, it wasn't the sort of thing the board wanted to get involved with, but please God, something will move forward positively on it, because I think there are a lot of, should we say, better endowed communities with the skills that could help those who would like some assistance, and it's something that is very close to my own heart. So I wish you Hatzlacha Rabbah in moving this one forward.
Thank you for that. Obviously, I don't know when you raised it, but I'm glad you did. And we are in different times. We move on. That was also something then that I obviously share with you, Sid. We've also got the small communities network that we can work with, but this is a very easy way that we can all support the regions, and also we can see firsthand the benefit of that support. It's not going to be very much, surely, for a big community to want to take an interest in a smaller community, and it would be good then to hear from the deputies about what's been arranged and to see how it works. And I think we could have some good examples of that, and I'm going to ask Sid in particular if he wants to now take an interest in that, and perhaps he can help get that off the ground, and that will be something that we can take forward, and I will have a good chat to Edwin and Andrew Gilbert about. So thank you for your interest in that. Anything else on that report? Okay, thank you. I've got the report from the International Division. Yes, please go to the microphone. Please don't rush. No rush.
I have to walk that marvellous lunch off. David Farby, Finchley Reform. First of all, thank you, Stuart, for the kind offer to cover our railway fares. Excellent. Second, thank you to everybody for this wonderful lunch. Excellent. And thirdly, a comment on the International Division report. I just noticed one element on it had to do with the Zionist Federation lobby of Parliament. This goes on more or less annually, and I noticed that several members of the board went. It used to be the procedure of the board for every one of these that all the deputies would receive an invitation and details of the lobby, and many of the deputies went. So could I suggest that in future for these lobbies that we revert to the previous procedure? All deputies are informed. Those who want to go can go, and those who don't want to go needn't.
Thank you. That's a very good question. What we'll do is we'll make sure that the details are included in the deputies' mailing in the future so that deputies can decide. So thank you for that, David. Yes, please do. Don't rush either. Come forward. Thank you.
This is not a statement, it's Hakarata Tov. I think we should...
So right, you've got 2.5 minutes,
I'm
no
sorry,
rush.
British Emunah, Flora Frank. I would endorse what David said, and I think we should give the credit to Eric Moonman. He was the one who used to stand up at every board meeting, and I think I went to nearly every one because of him. So I think we should give him a little bit of credit for that. And talking about speakers, you've mentioned such illustrious speakers, but I feel I went on Wednesday night to Lord Sax's launch of his book Morality, and I think if we could get him, it would be very appropriate, very timely, because he's talking about not I, but we.
Anybody else? Okay, would any deputies like to... We've got a little time, so if any deputies want to say anything else, you can come to the microphone. Anybody else? Okay, we've got a record now. Sid is now coming to speak for the 3rd time.
Only because I'm after another dose of the sanitizer. Yes, history is made. Madam President, deputies, Sid Braham, yes, I am still at Barnet. Didn't hear that. Madam Chairman, the Constitution Working Group survey needs to be back close of play tomorrow. No one's mentioned it, so I just have. I hope I haven't stolen anybody's thunder, but you do need to get your responses in. And there is some mention that there will be a focus group after this meeting. Is that still the case?
Yes, absolutely. No? Well, we will have to, Ben isn't here, but we will arrange, whether it's a different way to anticipated, a focus group, even if it's not in person. We might be able to use Zoom or other ways of communicating. We will find in this situation, because we have to consult. It's very important. Thank you for raising that, because this is something that Ben Crown and the President's Working Group have really worked hard on, so that the board can be fit for purpose for its constitution in going forward, and it's something that's been very important to me. So yes, if we've got any further comment, to come back tomorrow. Robert might also want to speak on this, I'm not sure. No, he doesn't, on the Constitution Working Group. But we will arrange focus groups, but it will have to be as best as we can in the circumstances. So thank you, Sid. Do you want to make it a 4th time, or we're done? It was the 4th. Right, fine, thank you.
Is there a request? Don't they cannibalise the local Minter minion, but if there is a quorum, the Minter before we go...
That would be very good, thank you. So as many of you can help, that would be appreciated. Thank you. Would anybody else like to come to the microphone? And then David Benson will come. Does any other deputy or member of the community? No, David, please, the microphone is yours. No rush.
Ladies and gentlemen, deputies, all I wanted to say was thank you so much for making the effort to be with us. I can't tell you what a privilege it has been to have you people with us, and the Board of Deputies profile in Birmingham hopefully will be a lot noticed than it has been in the past, and that's because you've made the effort to be with us. Please, please stay well, stay safe, be careful on your way home, and please look after yourselves. And let's see you all again shortly. Thank you very much indeed.
And just before we close, we know that we're going to be facing some challenging times, and more than ever it's important to remember that we're a community, we're here to help each other, and we've all faced many challenges, and this is something that all of the country will be facing. And as David has said, Please stay safe. Please follow all the guidelines. We will be in close touch with all of you. And if people start to become isolated, it's very important that we remember that that's a difficult situation. So we might be arranging, for example, even conference calls, catch-up calls. There's different ways that we can make sure that we try and stay in touch if that happens. So I want you to all bear in mind that that's something that I'm personally thinking about, because there is the toll on people's mental health if people do feel isolated, and that's something that we haven't experienced in a big way before. So we will be thinking about that as well, and we want to again thank you all for coming. We can see how much it's been appreciated by the whole community. Here. I've really enjoyed being here, and thank you for all of your questions and contributions and the fantastic entertainment and hosting that we've had in Birmingham, and we hope you'll have us back again soon. Thank you. And most of all, I would like to thank at the back, they are amazing. Hand it to the guys for their wonderful live streaming. Thank you for your patience, both of you. The meeting is now closed. Thank you.